Hello, good evening, and welcome to another book club. I'm Ria, a reader who loves the rain, and today we will be talking about the Rainfall Market. Now, before we begin, I'm gonna yap a little. Hello, welcome in, Nest. I'm so glad you're excited. I'm also excited. I made sure to prepare all this yesterday. I'm so thankful for past Ria's foresight because today, I was like, wow, it's 9 p.m. I still have half an hour to get ready. And then I was like, wait a second. Because I went on my YouTube to look for a specific video. And then I saw my post. And I was like, wait a second. I already posted this. And I posted it an hour ahead because book club is an hour later. And then I rushed to turn on my setup and get everything ready. But thankfully, everything was ready. I just needed to turn on and make sure everything was working. So that's the story of how I almost forgot about what time book club was. Now, normally I do stream at 9:30. The reason I made this earlier is because I tend to yap a lot about books. I gave myself some yapping room. But I forgot that I give myself some yapping room. It's fine, nothing happened. Anyways, welcome Ian. You saw the bookmark, got to figure out how to make it because you plan to buy the book. I'm so glad. So the thing is with the bookmarks, I forgot. That's what I forgot. I was gonna show you guys the announcement. For anyone who is watching, you can go ahead into my community tab. There are bookmarks. These bookmarks are for everyone. They are based on the Rainfall Market, so it's kind of spoilery, but also not. I tried to make it so that if you've read the book, you get the reference. But if you haven't read it, it doesn't spoil anything that you haven't already seen. And if you are a member, you also get some member exclusive versions. So please check out those in the community post. I'm so glad you liked it. I hope you have fun putting it together. I have bookmarks from this book club. I have bookmarks from the previous book club. And I have bookmarks from my 3-year streaming anniversary. So plenty of designs for you to choose from. Make one of them or make them all if you like. Definitely. Hope you guys are able to find a design you like. But my goal is to eventually make enough designs that you can truly pick whichever one you want and you will find one you like. Or you will... Sorry, my brain is like still half rushed. My goal is to make enough bookmarks so that eventually everyone will be able to find at least one design they like. Now, the theme for the bookmarks for book club is that the jelly buds, blooms, and blossoms, which are you guys, are traveling through the different worlds of the book. And that's why I said it kind of has a reference, it kind of doesn't. I did make them myself. I pieced them together. I used either vectors or free assets. And yeah. I'm so excited. I love them. Yeah, it's really cute. I actually made the bookmarks myself. And how do I say this? When I was designing them, I printed it out and made sure like I could follow the instructions and made sure they fit and they look nice. And actually, I've been using them myself. It's pretty nice to have like a couple bookmarks here and there. Because like, I'll be honest, I've never bought a bookmark. I've never seen a design here, I guess, that I've liked enough to buy like, I don't know, $5, $10 for. So it's kind of fun that I have like my own bookmarks and now I can find them at any time and use them when I'm reading. You can't say that I'm also not using what I make. Oh, so speaking of though, I hope you guys are also having fun of Mystria. I ended up making my own playthrough for Mystria. I've been playing it, just a brand new save file for 1.0. And I actually have been really chill about it. So I've tried playing on my own before and I got really stressed out because I wanted to do everything and everything was so slow. Like it felt like you were moving slow, felt like there was so much to do and you didn't have enough, time or stamina to do them all. But I ended up really enjoying this new playthrough. I played yesterday, I played today, and it's been really chill. I've tried not to think too much. I've just tried to be more relaxed and not be like, you have to complete this by this. So I only recently got a fishing rod, which I crafted. I'm forged, not crafted. Forged instead of buying. But I did... How do I say this? I don't know. It's been really chill. It's been really fun. I saw someone get the giant chicken... The chicken... What is it? chicken mount. The chicken mount. And I really want to get it. I want to double check next week when we play. I will check how many of those little beads I have. And then we will do a gacha poll to see if hopefully we can get the giant chicken. It looks so cute. I really want it. I do love my purple cow, don't get me wrong, but riding a giant chicken also sounds really cool. It feels very fantasy-like. Sorry, I just had to mention. Also, wholesome game celebrations. I'm going to announce this now before I forget because I might forget at the end of book club. This week's going to be a little crazy. So we will be playing Mystria as typical. But I will be having a lot of short videos coming out. These short videos will be very much like my Tomodachi 10.5. They are very unedited gameplay playthrough videos because I was fortunate enough to have Wholesome Games send me a bunch of games and demos through early creator access. I never use these in like as early access. A lot of people use it to film content ahead of time. I didn't have time for that. So instead, I'll be posting them on days that I don't stream, and I'll be streaming the games on the Sunday, Monday, and I believe, I think I'll be able to stream it on Friday if I make it in time. If not, I'll stream it a little earlier, but you guys should expect a bunch of short videos this week. I think they're like maybe half an hour to an hour long. So keep an eye on those. Lots of outfits. Members will get to see a lot of outfits this week. Apologies, it's just I did not expect to have so many. Also, I've been preparing for book club. But there will be a lot going on. I also have a potential Otome game week coming up. So keep an eye out for that if you are interested in that as well. And yeah, giant chicken chocobo. I was actually thinking of, so there's another story I read. It's called Nebula Civilization. And they have these giant, I guess it's like monster mounts. And that's what I thought of. But this is like the cute version. But I think the chocobo is from Final Fantasy. So makes sense. Even though I heard it is the critically acclaimed game that you can play now for free, Final Fantasy, I did not play. My computer did not have the specs at the time, and now I'm kind of like, As someone who has never played any of the Final Fantasies, this seems daunting. Yep, that's it. I think, what else do I want to announce? I had a lot going on. It's been very busy. You know what's interesting? I've been sleeping early. I've been doing well on that front. I've just been sleeping more, but I've been sleeping early. And the funny thing is when I sleep well, I'm not that interesting to listen to. Like when I watch my own streams, I'm not that interesting. When I'm sleep deprived, my streams are really, really funny and fun. So I don't know what that says about me. I don't know what that says about my humor in general. But we'll see. I would rather get enough sleep and sleep early, so apologies. I'm sacrificing my humor. Sacrificing my streamer ability for those Z's. You know how they're like, you have to pick between sleep, school, and friends? It's like sleep, streams are interesting, and my sanity. And unfortunately, I am picking sleep and sanity. I say unfortunately, but it's really only unfortunate as a streamer. I'm getting really off topic. You see what I mean? Like, when I'm sleep deprived, I am very sharp. Great at this. Yeah. I hope you guys are also all choosing sleep. Make sure to take care of yourselves, especially now. Make sure you're drinking water, eating your fiber, and resting well. Please always take care of yourselves. I'm trying to practice as I preach, for once. Anyways, let's get right into it. I did. Let me start off by saying I did not really like this story. And let me just say, I correct myself. I thought this was okay, but I do think that this particular author, and I am kind of familiar with him. You know why? So, for those of you who've been watching me for a while or who have seen my previous streams and me ranting, there was a book I really was excited for. I bought. It's called The Pastry Shop of Hwawadong. Hwawadong. So, what it is about is it is a young girl inherits a pastry shop from her late grandmother. That is her inheritance. It turns out that this pastry shop is like the in-between between the real world and then the spirit world, where spirits move on to go into the cycle of reincarnation. Now, this young woman, I should say, had a really bad relationship with her grandmother, so she's not excited about this inheritance. But as she helps various spirits in order to, re-enter the cycle, she learns why her grandmother, why she was not, how do I say this? It's not why she had a bad relationship with her grandmother, but she kind of learns what happened to her grandmother that caused their relationship to deteriorate. Because they didn't always have a bad relationship. It really got worse after her parents passed away. This author, You Yeong-Gwang, it's You Yeong-Gwang or Yo Yeong-Gwang. It depends on how you pronounce it because I'm not familiar with the Korean. He is the co-author of that story. And my gripe with that story is that the side characters and the spirits the main character encounters are so likable, so heartwarming. The stories, their growth, their perspectives is so charming, and it is so memorable. I still remember their individual stories. But the main character is not great. And when I say not great, that is putting it mildly. They are so good, it makes her look worse in comparison. And I'll only give you one example. I constantly use the same example. She was confused and she was like, hey, I don't know if I'm dreaming. So, jelly buds, what would you guys do if you weren't sure if you were dreaming? Would you A, pinch yourself, B, potentially, slap your face, C, I don't know, jump up and down or do something crazy, or D, slap someone else? If you said anything but D, you are wrong, because this main character, her instinct when she's like, is this a dream, is to harshly, and this is from the book, harshly slap her companion across the face. Now, who is this companion? Sorry, this is spoilers. I don't think this book is that worth it. How do I say this? Her relationship and her progression is not really worth it, so I will spoil it for you guys. Probably B for you. Honestly, B for me as well, but no, she was D. She slapped her future love interest in the face. And I say future love interest because it's kind of complicated. Basically, her love interest was someone who was a victim of circumstance, but because he and his grandma were both indirectly involved in the crash of her parents, which caused the grandma's son and her daughter-in-law to perish, they both feel immense guilt. It sounds funny, but her character, it's so abrupt and it's so rude because throughout the story, she just is, how do I say this? She instantly hates her love interest. And I don't know why he ended up with her. Like, there are so many moments where she is so rude and she is, how do I say this? Entitled, because she'll be like, you never tell me anything. And he already told you he can't tell you. He physically cannot tell you. You have to slowly discover it. And even, for example, when basic human decency, when she is trying to get in a taxi and he's like, I'm not going to get in a taxi. You can. I'll walk up. And she thinks he's insulting her because he won't get in a taxi. And I'm sitting here thinking, you said yourself, you observed that he is shaking. He doesn't seem like he wants to be here. And yet you're like, how dare he not get in the taxi with me? And then she forcibly pulls him into the cab. It's terrible. I can't stand her. It's one of those things where it's one thing to be immature. It's one thing to be unlikable, but her outbursts are so terrible, especially when you read how touching the ghosts and the spirit stories are. The ghosts are such good people. Like, you can argue that because they're getting a chance to reincarnate, they are good people, but the ghosts are all such good people that she just looks so unworthy. And I don't like using that because no one should be worthy of a good life or anything like that unless you are scum of the scum, and I won't go into those. But it doesn't feel like the happy ending she gets doesn't feel right. That's all I'm going to say. Sorry, I'm ranting about another book, but I found out that he wrote this, and that makes me understand why I don't like the female lead. And let me just say, Saren, I don't mind her. I don't think she's a bad female lead. I think she's a young girl who is in poor circumstances, but there are some very small things that could have changed that would have made her a stronger character. And I know that this is a short book. I know it's meant to be like a young coming of age story. It's just like her character, I feel, is I won't say immature. I feel like she's unpolished. From a writing standpoint, I feel like she's unpolished. And I feel like, I will tell you one thing about this book, is this book was actually, the editor pushed this book for international release before it was published in Korea. And it did do well. Like you can see, it says international bestseller, although a lot of books now say international bestseller. I'm not knocking the author. I'm saying that based on my reading of his previous books, I understand why I have the gripes with this current heroine, because for some reason the way he writes heroines is not for me. I definitely will not read future books from him just because I'm not a fan of the way he writes heroines. Yeah, you see a similar pattern with this story. Yeah. You see what I mean? Like, it's not that he isn't great. It's just that knowing that I don't like the way he writes his female leads, I would not pick out any more books from him. But I would give this book... Actually, I'm not even going to say. I'm going to ask, what did you guys think of the story? Did you like it? I can tell you what I thought about it as you guys type. Basically, for me, I think the setting was interesting. And I do think that a lot of things were foreshadowed. And I think that he set up a very cohesive world. Like I said, I feel like where it was lacking is at the driving force, which is the main character, which is my gripe with the other story. Because the female lead should be the driving force, because she is the lead. Whether it be a female or a male lead, the lead character, main character, should be driving the story. It feels more like, in this case with the Rainfall Market, poor young Saren is always a victim of circumstance. And it's not that she's not doing the best with what she's got, but that makes it difficult for the story to be as heartwarming as the author says his goal is for these stories. Now, I don't know if you guys read the acknowledgements. I did. Let me tell you, his goal was to read a story that warmed your heart when it finished. And I can see where he was going with it, but I'm not sure if there were things lost in translation or context, but I feel like with the background of Saren that we got, it's very difficult for this to be heartwarming. I think it can be heartwarming in the sense that she accepts her circumstance and she's trying to move towards a better future. But if you're saying heartwarming, there are things that prevent it from being so. You did like the story, honestly. The plot twist for me, you didn't expect. You thought he would be the savior, but you loved so much how it ended. It did warm your heart and you got you teary-eyed. That's good. Okay, so then this might just be me because I don't really like his style. But if there are some of you who did find it heartwarming, then you guys are probably the target audience for this. For me, I did like how Saren broke out of her shell and she was able to really, how do I say this? She grabbed onto her fate with her own hands. Like, she was very active towards the end. And I just wish she had been more active earlier. But I do understand, for example, someone who grows up in difficult circumstances, especially poverty, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And if we go back to Duroff and his, what we find out to be his, what he takes as a dokebi, it kind of makes sense. For me, I don't want to go too into my thoughts because I think I'll have better questions, but I will say it's interesting that this book has discussion questions. Today's questions will be a combination of me and also like the discussion questions provided by the book. So I hope you guys are interested. I tried to grab a couple that I thought would be interesting interesting to discuss, so we shall see. Okay, I'll tell you his little author blurb because this is his goal. He says he felt truly happy while writing the story and wishes for all readers to find healing and courage through it so that they may go out and discover their own happiness. So I think he has great intent, and I really do hope that whenever we read a story, that even, for example, it doesn't have to always be cozy, but whenever you read a story, I hope that you do feel energized after you read it. Maybe not every story, but I do hope that you enjoyed it. You enjoyed exploring the world. I hope that you found something about it you liked, because that's the whole point of reading, to get to see other perspectives, other possibilities, and potentially pick out and learn things for ourselves. Potentially. That's just how I approach reading. All right. Let me go on to the next question. Make sure I got, okay. Whew, there it is. So, what is the appeal of a what if that makes it such an attractive storyline and plot? Do you have any what ifs that you would like to explore or read about? I would like to listen to this while walking on a treadmill for the most part. Oh, you would listen to this while walking, so it was a nice experience. That's good. That's really interesting. For me, I could never listen to an audiobook while on the treadmill because I definitely would trip and fall. But that's really great. I'm trying to think. I had a point I was going to make about the audiobook. Sorry, because I moved on to another question. But I'm really glad that in the end it was a good pick and that you guys enjoyed it. That's the most important thing to me. Sometimes our opinions would differ, but as long as you guys enjoyed it, it's a win for me. Okay, sorry, I totally lost my thought. If I think of it, I will speak it. I will say it out loud, but we will talk about this. So this is actually one of the things that is from the book, like the discussion questions. I paraphrase it. Do you know how long the discussion question is? It actually says, wishing to have a different life and choosing a different path are common themes in many stories. And then it goes, what is the appeal? Because the thing is, I think a lot of people who have read manga, manhwa, or webtoons in the more recent years, everyone has probably noticed that there's a lot of regression, second chance, isekai. And I think all those fall under the thought of what if. Now, in this case, Serin's what if is that she technically wanted to have someone else's life. She wanted a life different from hers that was better than hers. However, I do think that this is very much still under the banner of isekai, second chance, regression. Think about a lot of the, people that were there. Some of the people said, if I could go, like the very rich man, I'm sorry, this is spoilers, but I am speaking on the assumption that you guys have read the book. For example, one of the people, the rich man, he said that he wanted a life where he could be of his loved ones. I think even though technically at the Dokebi market or the Rainfall Market, he was aiming to have a different life, but it kind of sounded like he actually wanted a time regression, He didn't necessarily want different, but he wanted another chance so that he could cherish his family the way he felt he didn't do. And then there were some who were saying like, oh, if I had a different job, or oh, if I could, I'm trying to remember all of them. I think there was a different job, a different chance. I still don't know what the university student who wasn't able to job hunt, did he just want a job? Was that what he wanted? I was actually kind of confused because the whole point of the market was the fact that it was being manipulated. Possible. He wanted to be young and value the choices of youth rather than chasing money. Oh, okay. Yes, that's right. Sorry, that does ring a bell. You're very right, because he does mention multiple times that being young again would allow him the strength to choose these kind of things. You're right. But for me, the appeal of what if is, I guess the whole point of this book is the concept of the grass is greener on the other side, or let me see what I wrote down. things aren't always as they seem. Those are two of the kind of contradictory things about this book. On one hand, the whole core of it is that people constantly want something that they don't have. They believe that is better. For Saren, it was kind of, she was only being shown the negative side of what she quote unquote technically wanted. But in actuality, I think even from the very beginning, the book kind of sets it up where things are never as it seems. And that's what I said, like I can kind of recognize his writing style now. Saren and that old man had what the other wanted. Yeah, I think that is why he is the first one she met. And he's also the last one she saw before she went back for Isa. It was meant to foil that because he had all the money in the world, but he didn't have people who loved around him. And she lived in poverty, but it turned out that she did have many people who did really love and cherish her. But that's what I said. You Yeong-Gwang, I keep wanting to pronounce it in Chinese. I don't know why. You Yeong-Gwang does a really good job of setting things up like this. If you've read other books of his, and technically the pastry shop was, I think it was a co-author, but his style was really clearly seen, and the fact that he is really good at setting things up and circling back to them. So a lot of things he mentions does have a purpose. I think that for even, let's say, the current time or people in general, we've always romanticized like, oh, I wish I could have done this. I wish that, I had this chance, or if I could live that life, I'd live it differently. I think that's a very natural inclination, whether we are doing things like watching people we admire or people that have the life we want. And it's why aspirational content, aspirational things are things that people really like watching, and you'll see a lot of the content. I tend not to go that way. It's a very slippery slope. But I think even for things like, oh, someone has built their own library, that I wish I could do that. Or, wow, they have so many dogs and they are able to like take care of them and train them really well. So I think these are very natural things. And I think that the main appeal of the what if is that we expand into them. And by turning these into stories, we can kind of explore what could possibly happen. I think the earliest that I can think of is, for example, there's probably earlier versions. I think Ranma, it counts. But like, Inuyasha is technically an isekai because Kagome goes to Inuyasha's world. We have, what else? We have Haruhi in Ouran High School Host Club, where as a commoner, she encounters, the top of the top. And I think that one is more satire, but you can still see that there is this, how do we perceive this group of people and their life and how they would act? And I think that's what the biggest charm is, the contrast between someone that more people can relate to, like Haruhi, and seeing her in all these absurd situations. Because of course, only the mega wealthy and very famous and rich, like they were in Ouran High School Host Club, would get in these situations, I feel like there's always been a curiosity and always been, I guess not interest, but definitely a curiosity about something that we haven't experienced, because people are naturally curious. Would Inuyasha be reverse isekai? Technically, Inuyasha, when he goes to Kagome's world, I guess that'd be reverse, but because isekai is when you go to another place with your own body. Transmigration is when you go to another place, but in someone else's body. And then there is, what else? Reincarnation, where you retain memories of a previous life. So all what ifs categories. Now, what about you guys? What do you think makes it interesting? Yeah. I will say that I am very clear about this because I wrote it down because I'm tracking it in my own book journal for the stories I read. I realized I read a lot of these. I wanted to be able to track and see which categories I tend to veer towards. And I do think that, and while you guys are typing, I'm still letting you guys type. Do you have any what ifs that you would like to explore or read about? For me, I like, how do I say this? Sport what ifs, if that makes sense. I feel like when it comes to sports, a couple that I can think of is The Genius Midfielder is something I'm reading right now. It's about a young man who got an injury when he was younger, and even though he had potential as a soccer player, his potential got cut short. So he gets a second chance and he goes back and he finds that he's developed unique abilities. I kind of like sports, but with like a bit of ability. Of course, the ability can't be the core of his ability, if that makes sense. Like the ability can assist you, but what's interesting is how he uses his ability in conjunction with his own training. There was another one I read, but it wasn't quite as interesting. But it was the first one. I think it's like The Genius Takes a Mound. One was baseball, one is soccer. I tend to like gamified sports. But if it was a personal what if that I would like to explore or read about, probably be something regarding something unexpected, like fashion or crafting. If I can give an example, it would be like, you know how you get all those isekai OP characters and they're like doing dungeon gate hunting? I would love to see someone who goes back in time or gets another chance in a different body where they are able to craft like weapons and also gear. Because I think that gear and weapons is really understated. There was a story I read because it focused on gear and it turned out to be weird harem, like really, really weird harem. Like his young, I hate saying it, his young son, who I think was less than 10, had his own harem. It was really, really difficult for me to read, and I definitely stopped at that point. It is called Overgeared. I don't recommend it if you don't like harems. If you like harems, that's probably the right place for you. For me, there's never been one that's really satisfactory because when it comes to weapons and gears, I think it's very understated how important that is, and I would love to see one where it's not just about ability, but also about like the gear you make. So that's one I would love to see. Maybe there is one that exists and it just hasn't been made or translated into English yet, or made into a manhwa. So potentially that's something. You're a sucker for what ifs. You're part of the reason why you love reading books and different media because you love getting into a certain mindset that's different from yours. Yes, 100% agree with that, Nest. Do you love fantasy stuff? Yeah. I also really enjoy fantasy. I tend to go for a lot of stories and then it's like 50-50 if it turns out to be a harem. I like watching overpowered people, but it has to be overpowered within limitation. I like community overpowered people, like people who build a community around them. That's what I like reading. Right now, I'm really interested in, what was it? Like I said, the Nebula Civilization, that one's really good. The Player Who Hides His Past is pretty good. Neither of those are harems if you're interested. One is about like world building and literal world building. You are a god and trying to eventually become the ruler of the entire world. And then that's Nebula Civilization. The other one, The Player Who Hides His Past, is about someone who ended up, the game became their reality, and he has to play as the character he made from middle school, where he was in his cringe lord phase. So it has like, no one understands me. The darkness in my heart can't be understood. And it's actually a really cool character. His own personality is kind of terrible. They're not that interesting. But I do like how it's progressing because it's a very active story. And then the other one, the most recent one I just started reading is called the Sword Guard live streams, or the Sword Guard streamer. It's about someone who remembers his past life of being in like a historical setting, which is Muram, and he was a sword god, and now he's in modern day, he has, no purpose for it, so he becomes a live streamer. But because he plays like full body VR, it's very interesting. Advanced technology. It's pretty good. I will say it's pretty early, so I don't know what it will eventually turn up to. Yeah, Nebula Civilization, I highly recommend. It's really good. It is on Webtoons if you guys want to check it out. It is currently free to read because it is ongoing. And if you like characters who... He is overpowered in the sense that he knows what's going on, but how it works is that each god is responsible for a race, and they are trying to make their race become the overlords of the world. That is how they'll take over the world, because as they have more followers, they get more faith. It's really good. I do highly recommend it. It's very unconventional and pretty unique from other, I would say, fantasy manhwas that are currently going on. Yeah, sorry, I ended up yapping about other stories, but it's really interesting. Do you guys have any what ifs that you would like to explore or read about? Are there any that you feel like there's a niche or something that hasn't been explored yet, hasn't been talked about? I feel like we are currently in a state where people are finally moving on from necromancers. We're moving on from necromancers. So I don't know what the next meta is going to be. I think the next meta is contrasting personalities, which is people playing a character who does one thing, but internally they're different. There's a couple I can name like that. One of them is the player who hides his past. It's pretty good. I will say the one of the reasons I like Sword Guard live streamers. Sorry, I wanted to mention this is that the way they do the live stream comment section is very proactive and interesting. Like they really give it so much they personify. There's so much character in the live stream messages. And they do that by making the live stream messages kind of like characters. You'll see what I mean if you read it. I do recommend it. Yeah. Let me think. What else is what else is the current meta? I haven't read a lot because I'll be honest. There are too many harems. They're only getting harems licensed in English. I was looking at webtoons and going through and none wasn't great. Yeah. I do recommend it. I'm gonna read a different one, but that one's on Tapas, so I'll read it first and then I'll tell you guys because you have to pay to read it on Tapas. Yeah. If you guys don't have any what ifs that you would like to explore or read about, I'm okay with that. We can move on. I'm trying to think if there are any. I think I had a couple. I forgot to write them down because I thought about them off the top of my head. I personally think that it would be more interesting if we had more female lead action stories. Now, I will say female lead dungeon stories are not rare. Like there's a couple I really enjoyed. I Stole the First Ranker's Soul. That was really good. But what was really disappointing for some of the action-oriented ones where it's not just about unconventional jobs. I enjoy those too, but when it comes to action-oriented female leads, they always have really terrible families. And that's kind of a DNF for me because admittedly, I've read my fair share of those, but I'm kind of tired of like the female lead having a family who hates her and is using her. And I think that's a meta that needs to go. I really think that's a meta that needs to go because the female lead should not have to have a terrible family and suffer in order to earn her happy ending because I don't see that happening in the male characters. I'm just saying, I don't want to bring up too much. I will rant about it. But I feel like the female leads also deserve good families too. That's just what I'm saying. I also feel like this applies to my gripes with this current Rainfall Market edition where Saren is kind of unnecessarily suffering, and I want to say I'll explain a little more when I talk about it later, but there is some unnecessary suffering, and that's what prevents it from being that heartwarming to me. For a female lead story, you've been loving 7 times. I really want to get into that. I have been putting that off, but it has been on my to-read list. I'm so sad because you cannot get the physical books anymore, but I've heard so many good things about it, and I'm just waiting for the right moment. I think... Oh, this might be a spoiler. I was going to have it as an option for next book club to get me to read it. But I would honestly... I really want to give myself an excuse to get it and to read it. But I'm so sad the light novels are not available. Gonna have to find a way. Might have to get it on Kobo. But I've heard nothing but good things about it. And even the anime. Might have to do a watch along. But yeah, let's move on to the next question. Which dokebi was your favorite? Now, we met so many dokebi, which was the little goblin. There is an anime. Yeah, there is an anime, and it was really well received. Should definitely check it out if you haven't. But which dokebi was your favorite? We met so many dokebi, all had their own characteristics, and many of them came to Saren's aid because, she is a bundle of sweetness. Like, literal. I think that Saren was really great in the market, and I feel like, how do I say this? I feel like her character, how do I say this? When you hear about her in her day-to-day life, I don't know if it's because she was anticipating that she would get a better life, but she was in such a better mood, if that makes sense. I think that really helped with her impression of everyone. But I won't get into that because, again, it's his writing style. For me, my favorite dokebi might be a little unconventional, or maybe it is conventional, I don't know. But it was actually Toria and Popo. I really like both of them. Toria, we don't know what kind of things he takes, but he was just he was very, very sweet. The fact that at the end he still had the little purple flower that Seirin picked for him, oh, that was a cute moment. That was so cute. And I adore Popo and how, like, I think they mentioned her in the final battle where, like, she tries her best to use her walking stick to lay a blow on Duroff, and it didn't do much. But I thought that was so silly, and I really adored Popo. And I think Popo in particular had a really big impact on Seirin. And there's actually a significance, I believe, in the bamboo she gave her. Now, bamboo in Korean culture, and I read this briefly, so if I'm wrong, please let me know. But apparently, bamboo in Korean culture is very important. It's not only an important part of their history and culture, it is an important part of their weaving and things like that. But there's another meaning to bamboo in Korean culture. So the term bamboo forest is something where a secret place where you are able to vent your feelings, because it's believed that the bamboo is like an enclosed private space. So when you're in a bamboo forest, people tend to share like heartwarming feelings or secrets. And I think that really is, I guess, like symbolism of why not only did Popo give her bamboo, but why Seirin felt comfortable, I guess, like being more honest with Popo. Because we can see in earlier encounters, Seirin was kind of like very used to not truly speaking her mind. But with Popo, she was surprisingly honest. Like, she was very straightforward, and when Popo was like, oh, you look disappointed, she's like, yeah, I thought you might have a rainbow orb. In contrast to, like, when she was with Nicole, where she was trying to sneakily take away the rainbow orb, you know? Yes, the bamboo and how they explained it, I think the fact that how I say this, the words were, it will bloom at the right time, and then for Seirin to need it to escape, and the bamboo had grown to a crazy amount. Such a great imagery, such great descriptions, and I think the translator did a really good job conveying that. I do think the translator did a really good job of this. I did enjoy the way the translator conveyed a lot of the scenes, especially in such a contextually important language like Korean. Like, Chinese is also very contextual, so I definitely understand, and it's tough, but they did a really good job with a lot of the imagery and the scenes and, like, I guess a lot of the expressions. So for me, it's Toria and Popo. What about you guys? Your heart was shattered with Duroff. You liked him at first because he was very gentlemanly, but you have to choose. You liked Mata. You love that they all helped Seirin at the end. Mata is great, if I remember correctly. Mata is the bookshop owner, correct? He was very great. I feel bad that he has, hearing damage so young. But kudos for Seirin for, like, immediately being able to communicate with him before he went out to try to buy food for her. Also, really, really great how Seirin was able to help Mata figure out his own purpose. And she really helped him. Instead of giving him an answer, she just kind of led him to it. And that's why I think it's so, so sweet how they all came together and really valued their interactions with her. Yeah. For me, Duroff always gave me a very weird vibe. And I don't want to be one of those people who's like, oh yeah, I always knew he was weird. I can explain why I found him weird. Now, Duroff, when you first meet him, they keep mentioning that his eyes are very intense on Seirin. Let me see if I can find it. It is the When he talks to her, nope, not there. Oh, so, okay, it's not just how he looks at her, but it's the fact that he took her to the dungeon. The very first scene where he took her to the dungeon's like, yes, people who end up there usually don't make it out. That was a moment where I was like, oh, that might be foreshadowing. And I only say that because, like I said, I thought that this writing was very familiar, and when I later realized that it was the same author, I was like, oh, that's why it felt familiar. But Duroff gave me weird vibes when he did that. He was also a little too convenient. I will say that I do have the benefit of having read this author's work, and I know how they set up things, so I did instinctively feel like, yeah, it's not going to be that simple, because it's really never that simple when it comes to this author. That was kind of accidental, but fair point. Definitely was foreshadowing, yes. I mean, like I said, I have read their style before, which is why I'm familiar with it, but I think he still set it up really well. At some point, when they kept emphasizing Berna, I was like, oh, it's not her. Because it's never her. When the author tries to make it very obvious, it is never the obvious choice. Authors tend not to go that route. Yeah, don't worry, no worries. I got your point. Next question. If you could have one of the Dokebi's magical abilities, what would it be? Why? Now, if you're trying to remember what all the Dokebi's abilities are, don't worry, I got you. So we got Mata's dad, temptation to give up, so that they do not give up. Bordo, memories, so that you don't remember young. Remember when you were young. Sorry, I had to paraphrase it. It's memory so you don't remember what it was like when you were young, so you continue to have kids. Mata ends up wanting to take resentment when humans suffer so that they can endure. Popo grows flowers and trees from unrecognized sweat shed towards goals. Nicole makes fragrances from words in humans' hearts. Bormo, memories that people don't want to remember and some that might be important. Then we have Duroff, the self-esteem taker. Burrell, the serenity taker. Vance, the decisiveness taker. Hank, the desire to wash on days off. Panko, curiosity taker, which is humans' taste for toys. Apparently Panko is the reason that I still like stuffies. Grom Antonio Valterikion the Gregory III, the desire to sleep. And then we have Haku, who takes so many things, don't do what they're supposed to do what they're not supposed to, and he steals stuff. Haku is really overpowered. He has so many. It's interesting that a Dokebi would steal certain things from humans and can be good or bad, but also, yeah, thank you. I put in a lot of work. This is why I had to make these slides. Some of these are not all the Dokebi, by the way. These are only the Dokebi who specifically mentioned what they take. So, for example, Toria doesn't mention what he takes. Emma, the hairstylist, doesn't mention what she takes. So anyone who did not specifically mention, because they're supposed to, as a Dokebi, introduce themselves and what they take, I only mentioned these, let me think. I think there's 15. 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6, 7. Oh, 13. Okay, there's 13. Now, which one would you guys pick? For me, I would definitely go for Popo. I don't want to overlap with Popo, but I feel like Popo does really great. And aside from, chasing down mischief trees, I would want to help Popo. It looks like she could use a hand, I also really love the little character portraits that they had. Sorry, it's a little dark. I took the picture and then I just cropped out the silhouette. So this is actually from my book. Mata's dad for you. He did win an award for it. Plus, it seems so useful, not just yourself, but others too. Very fair. Very fair. That's why he's won multiple awards. And now hopefully Mata is able to win awards as well. Yeah. It was a lot for me to try to fit them all. I don't know why. I think it was some of the shapes. Grom and his name. I was going to make his full name really tiny as a joke. Ended up just leaving it because I realized I'd have to read it out loud. Now, what was your favorite moment from the book? I've talked a lot about what I don't like, and I do want to let you know I did still like the book. If I could give this book stars, it'd be either a 2.5 or a 3. It was an okay book. I do have my gripes about it, but my favorite moment from the book was definitely in the final fight where Saren roundhouse kicks Duroff in the face. Cinema. Absolute cinema. What a great moment for Saren to come full circle from her not being able to break the board and from the beginning, and finally being able to assert herself with something, one, that she loves, two, against a person who in the situation that was manipulating her, because I think Duroff's character is also kind of like a symbolism of the situation that Saren's going through, which is, her circumstances and living in poverty, because he's literally manipulating her and trying to force her into certain, how do I say this? I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't think I'm qualified to talk about it, but poverty is definitely a systematic thing where it is very difficult to get out of, and it is something that leads you, guides you towards certain decisions even if you don't want to. And I feel like Duroff's mechanisms towards Saren are kind of a symbolism of what she's going through. So for Saren herself to use what she loves, Taekwondo, and to physically lay a blow on a manipulator, cinema. Absolute cinema. I agree. I also fist bumped when she delivered the kick. I was like, wow, that was great. And that's why this book is still a 3 for me. I think her coming full circle in that moment was really, really cool. I honestly thought that her breaking the board was great, but then she actually roundhouse kicked and sent him flying. Brilliant. Amazing. Loved it. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Alright. And then I did write notes. I didn't write as many as I wish I could have. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing moment. Do you guys have any other moments that you also loved? Looking for it so I can talk about it more. Oh, there it is. I was like, wait a second. The other moment I liked was probably when Isa swallowed the rainbow orb. I will admit, for me, that was the big twist. I kept wondering what would happen with the rainbow orb. I thought maybe Duroff would have done it improperly. It wasn't fully prepared. It wasn't sincere. But then Isa took the orb and then swallowed it. And I was like, I honestly thought at some point the chief was going to grant Isa reincarnation. I did not expect that Isa would use the orb for themselves. That was another great moment. Because it was something that everyone wanted. And for Duroff, who had looked down on Isa, just like he looks down on Saren, he also was like, oh, Isa, always wanting to reincarnate, but never being able to. Because, he made it that way. And then Isa being able to actually reincarnate, chef's kiss. Exactly. Aisha was the one who found every single one of those orbs. Aisha 100% was the protagonist who deserved to use it. I mean, I'm not saying that Saren wasn't great at the end. She was. It was just like for Isa to use it, that was such a great move. Such a great moment. Such a great move. Any other great moments? Aisha is the star of the story. You love so much to see him again at Saren's house. Yes! I think when Saren took care of the pregnant cat, I already had thoughts of it. I just wasn't sure how Isa would reincarnate. Also, what else was there? Like I said, You Yeong-Gwang is really good at foreshadowing. A lot of things that he mentions are very intentional. I don't think there's a single interaction that isn't intentional. Yeah, I'm just making sure in my mind. The only other... Yeah, I think the only thing we didn't see again was the three thugs who tried to beat up the old man for the ticket. I think that was the only thing we didn't see again. With the fantasy and Aisha stuff, you feel the story be so good as a Studio Ghibli animation or something. I agree. I think that this story would have lended itself well to be animated. There's some stories that are difficult to turn into animation, but the world that he built and the characters he crafted, it makes so much sense as a coming of age film. I 100% agree. I think it needs to be a film and not maybe a TV show. Maybe a short episodic TV show where each... Well, no, that's too short. I think it could be a movie. I think it would be a movie with a big moment at the end. And then we would hear, like, you would see Saren living her life while the radio reads aloud her story and the letter that she wrote. I feel like that'd be very cinematic. 10 out of 10 would agree. 10 out of 10. Let me go on to the next question. Yeah, a movie, right? Because I think there's not enough. Part of my gripes about it is that because this is a short story, it's really difficult to establish the character's background, and I do understand, but that's why, like I said, I'll mention this later. I'm trying to save my thoughts because I have the question prepared. Now, there are many creatures, places, and realms that Saren and Isa visit. If you gotta go, who would you visit first? Where would you want to go the most? Now, this is a question from the book. If you were in the Rainfall Market, where would you visit and go? Unfortunately, I wanted to illustrate and show you guys the different places she visited. I could not find imagery that I was okay and satisfied with. But we can focus specifically on the different characters. For me, I 100% would go to the bookstore. I would go to Mata because the idea of getting to see a bookstore of a dokebi and seeing what kind of stories they read, and Saren said that she couldn't read them. I would learn. I would want to learn and I would want to read. I feel like there'd be amazing stories because as beings who have lived as long as they have, seen as many people, heard as many stories, I feel like they would have really great imaginations. I feel like their stories would be really interesting. I would really, really want to immerse myself in the bookstore there. I feel like this is not just typical, it's true. I was at the mall with my family the other day. They're like, hey, do you want to go to the bookstore? And I looked at the time and I was like, no. And it's not because I don't want to go. It's because if I go, I need to allot at least 2 hours for myself to explore. And they're like, okay. Because it's true. Every time I've gone into the bookstore, they usually continue going shopping and I'm still there. So I would never half-heartedly go into the bookstore. It would just make me sad. Unless I had a specific book I needed to get. But then it would make me sad not to slowly go through and find something I wanted to read. Might even steal a book to learn even though you don't understand the language. Okay, steal is generous because let me be real. They had no organization there. Mata also is, hard of hearing. He don't think he would notice if you try to pay for it. You could go up to him and try to leave money and then he probably still wouldn't realize. But also he didn't realize a book was stolen until, Saren knocked him on the head with another one. So, hard to say. I will say, as someone who also has a lot of books, I too have them in a haphazard way, but I do know where everything is, technically. And that's why when I move one thing and I start cleaning up, I can't find anything. But that's okay. I totally relate to Mata in that sense. Another place that would be really cool to go to is probably... not that many, actually. Not that many. Let me be real. Toy store sounds interesting, but because Penko's job is to take away your curiosity for toys, would you be interested in toys? You know what I mean? If you go to Penko's trying to find an interesting toy, he might just take your curiosity for toys and then you won't buy any. It feels kind of counterintuitive, Penko. Are you luring people into your bookstore so you can take their curiosity? Or are you not very good at doing business because you're worried about your grandson? You see what I mean? Like, it's either he's luring them in so he can take the curiosity, or he's not very good at knowing that he probably shouldn't sell toys if he's takes away people's curiosity, because then people won't go to his toy store to buy. You see. Emma's is also interesting because I was actually curious what she's really good at doing, but apparently she's just really good at combat with a chainsaw. So good for her. Good for her. Oh, excuse me. I thought I was gonna sneeze. Okay, so next question. We're about halfway through my questions, by the way. I don't have that many. For who you'd visit, probably Toria. Maybe get something to have Emma help with your hair or something. Yeah, that's also fair. Toria is cute. He'd be with Popo, so you would be helping Popo. So 10 out of 10. But also Emma, the only reason I didn't choose Emma is because, like she said, what if the hair oil wasn't made of genuine compliments? And also her other patrons, what was it? One of them... So her patrons were Burrell and Vance. Burrell takes serenity from people at important moments to make them nervous, and then Vance takes people's decisiveness, usually when you're ordering from the menu. That's why I didn't go, because even though you would have really nice hair, I feel like you would leave with a bit of anxiety after meeting Burrell and Vance. Now, the one interesting thing was the Dokebis didn't seem to actively take things from humans while they were in the market, if that makes sense. They kind of knew, like, not to mess with them too much. Except Deroff. That's why he was, the villain. You blame Vance for a lot of things. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I feel like after reading this book, I can be like, whenever you can't decide something, you're just like, damn it, Vance, stop taking my decisiveness. Or, not again, Burrell. But I'll be honest, you would really have to remember their names. But it was so interesting to see the concept of the Dokebi taking even like the smallest of things like this to the, the largest of things. Like, I 100% blame Grom for my lack of sleep now. That is one thing I'll never forget. If I don't get enough sleep and I stay up late, it's because of Grom. I'm not even gonna dignify him with his full name. Yep. Next question. Now, if you could change one thing about the story, what would you change? This is the question I have been waiting for, because I feel so strongly about this. Let me begin. I will say it, and then you guys can type your answer. I will say what I feel. Saren is someone who is currently living in poverty. That is very, very difficult. She and her mom are doing their best, living in a unit in the basement, very much, parasite vibes. And she has a younger sister who is about the same age as her, because her sister took her measurements at the end of the story to send Saren in uniform. That means they're very close in age, ran away from home. I would turn the younger sister who ran away from home and is somehow able to afford a uniform and send it to her sister. I don't want to imagine what a young woman on the streets somehow has money to do this kind of thing. That is what prevents it from being heartwarming for me. But I feel like if we changed the younger sister, Yeren, and made her an older sister, that would strengthen Saren's character. Let me start. Saren says that she feels, even though her mom doesn't say it out loud, that her mom would rather her not go to university and instead work immediately so she can help out the family. There is no indication of this. Her mother doesn't berate her. Her mother doesn't ask her if she's looking for part-time jobs. Like, there is no indication from her mother that she has this kind of pressure. Now, I understand that sometimes it's circumstantial. Saren is very aware of her family's circumstances. So this is possible that it is also her own conjecture. Now, what if her older sister, Yeren, was someone who was really smart, had a great life, someone she really looked up to, and was slated for university? But because after her dad had an accident, she gave up on university and had to work away from home, only sending money home sometimes. That would solidify Saren's thinking that maybe she can't go to university because if her older, responsible, amazing sister couldn't go, then what chance does she have? And also, The fact that because her sister set the example of someone who started working right after school and is sending home to support the money, home to support the family, that would solidify Saren's belief that this is also the expectation her mother has for her. This is really important to me because I understand the whole point of this story was misunderstandings. But I feel like that is the strongest thing that prevents Saren's motivation from being firm to me. She is a young girl. She is going to misunderstand. She is currently dealing with situations that no young child or person should have to go through, especially, how do I say this? In a way that she feels so isolated. Yeah, because I feel like when they show her younger sister at the end, what really made the story weaker for me was at the end when you hear about her sister and how, her friend asks her, oh, do you want to go, are you planning to go back to school? And her sister's like, nah. And then suddenly she decides to send a uniform back for Saren. That is not bad, but it's weak for me. Because number one, what is Yeren's point of doing that? Saren is not someone who is good at school or likes school. Saren did have aspirations to go to a good university, but this is something that I've only learned anecdotally from Korean culture. In Asian cultures, especially in Korean culture, going to university is an important part of getting a good job. And of course, this is the mindset of many places, but especially in Korea, where the university exam you take is seen as the single most important test of your life. And if you have not heard of this, let me explain to you. It is a test that takes students all day. They cannot meet anyone. They will stay there and take a test all day. These tests are extremely intensive. These tests are extremely sensitive. No airplanes fly over the testing center. No radios play certain songs. It is literally the whole country giving that single, maybe 1 or 2 testing days for these students to fully focus on this test because that is how important that test is for their future. And that's why I understand Saren's value of education, but her younger sister I think they were trying to indicate that she's always thinking of Saren, but if, for example, it had been her older sister, I think it just would have been stronger. Because number one, now I'm worried about why Yeren, her younger sister, is doing, by herself on the streets. And for some reason, she decides to send a school uniform, probably to encourage her older sister, but it does not feel as strong. That's what I mean. Yeah. I understand the importance in the Korean context. Don't get me wrong. But like I said, it just does not feel as strong as, for example, her wondering if her older sister sees her as a burden, or if her older sister, you know what I mean? Her older sister could have had a better life if she didn't have to send money home, that kind of thing. I feel like that would have been stronger than the current characterization, because I'll be honest, and I don't blame her for this, Saren doesn't really have the characteristics of an older sister, and this is just in a general character way. Older sisters come in all shapes and forms, but it's just, you don't really see it. So that's why for me it's a little weaker. It seems like Saren is someone who is very considerate of other people, and I think she did a really good job in the Rainfall Market, but like I said, it's not strong enough for me. So worried from the start when you heard Yeren ran away. Yep. I actually thought that Saren would come to the conclusion that she want her life to be of her sister or something. Also fair. She constantly brought up her sister. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that Yeren might have ran away to the Rainfall Market. I thought, number one, Saren could have stumbled in on her sister's life that she left behind, or two, Yeren could have become a dokebi. Now, that would involve her sister no longer being here, which would have been really sad, but on the other hand, it would have made sense. Yeah, I honestly thought that it would have been interesting if, for example, Saren had encountered her sister that way, because they kept bringing her up, only for her to appear as a flashback. And again, like I said, that was a little weak for me. I was also moderately concerned that she decided to just leave for a whole week and then told her mom that she was staying with her friends, and her mom I know her mom is dealing with extremely big fish. It's extremely complicated and difficult to be living in poverty. But it just felt really nonchalant, you know? I don't know. Like I said, that was the one thing I would change about the story. Do you guys have anything you feel you would change? It doesn't have to be as big as like what I mentioned. This is just something I constantly had in my head, so I wrote it down and made sure I wanted to tell you guys. It can be something small. Maybe you change Grom's name so it's not quite so ostentatious. But like I said, it doesn't really change much of the story itself, but I feel like it would have fleshed out Saren's character more. And that's kind of my only gripe about the story, is Saren's character herself is not very fleshed out. I feel like You Yeong-Gwang and his heroines and his female leads tend to not be full characters, and sometimes they don't have to be. Admittedly, in Dinner at the Night Library, we don't feel like the female lead in that one was very fleshed out either, but I feel like because the author used so many different perspectives, it didn't feel like it was lacking. In this sense, because Saren's the one who should be driving the story, it does feel like she could have been more rounded. You were wondering even if time ran differently in the Rainfall Market, that would not make the mom worry or something. Yeah, especially because she wasn't going to school. Let me just tell you, Asia's school systems, they are very strict about attendance. They will call you. I do not know how she somehow got through that. Maybe the Rainfall Market also has a system where they help Saren get leave from school or something. I don't know. But I feel like for everyone else as well, like whoever was there, a lot of people had unique jobs, but I do wonder if people took time off to go to the market. Like, for example, who were working government jobs, they are also very particular about, applying for leave, getting leave approved, and things like that. If there was one thing you change, it would be having Yerin also having some kind of good relationship with the mom, because it doesn't seem like Yerin is just good with Saren. I also agree. I feel like because Yerin never really made an appearance, we really don't know anything. Saren does offhandedly mention that before Yerin ran away, Saren and her did have an argument about the missing hairpin, where she accused Yerin of taking it because, they are similar sizes and similar preferences. I assumed, based on that, because of the limited information, that Yerin ran away because of this argument with Saren. But it's also a very good point that potentially, if Yerin had had a really good relationship with her mom, that also could have made Saren feel a little isolated, because she seems to really struggle communicating with her mom. She doesn't really, it's very difficult. Her mom's clearly having a hard time supporting their family, and they're going through a lot of stressors. But it seems like Saren is also just not able to actively communicate with her mom. She doesn't really know how. But I feel like you're right. That would have also strengthened Saren's feeling of isolation, where her sister is her only best friend, but her sister has her and her mom. You know what I mean? I agree. That would have definitely helped in establishing Saren's character of feeling isolated and what drives her to finally go find the market. I will also say the Taekwondo thing was a little weak. The Taekwondo crush, I get it. She's young. This thing is going to affect her because she's young. But that was also a little weak. I'm glad the Taekwondo came full force, but the fact that the crush was there, I felt like was a little unnecessary. Not because she can't have a crush, but it was just kind of there. Right, next question. Which dish would you rather try and why? There were 2 specific dishes that Saren ate, and I thought it was interesting. I think I know what you guys would pick, but let's see what you pick. The crush did seem forced, yeah. It didn't really have a purpose. I felt like with Saren's circumstances, it seemed like they needed it because she needed to pick the orb where it was like, oh, I want to be with someone I love. And not so much for example, if she thought about her dad and she was like, I wish for a life where my dad was back. I feel like that would have made more sense. And perhaps the pursuit of something truly impossible would have driven her to look for the rainbow orb, because she realized more than anything what she wanted was her dad back in her life, because that's when life was good, you know? That would have been way stronger than just random good-looking taekwondo guy. But also, yeah, because her dad was such a driving force, I'm surprised she never considered the possibility of, you know, if I could get the rainbow orb, I could literally have my dad back. So that's why, in some ways, I feel like the heroines are... The plot drives the heroines, not really them driving it. Because them mentioning all these things, and she never once thought like, hey, I want my sister back. Hey, I want my dad back. If my sister, who was my best friend, ran away, the first thing I do with that orb is like, give her back to me. I want her back. Where is she? That's one of the things that drove me crazy. It's why I think if her sister had been safe, it would have strengthened her character. But for her sister to be like her literal best friend, and for her not to imagine a life where her sister is back with her, is crazy to me. Yeah. Like I said, it's just these little things that make it a little difficult for this to be heartwarming. Because I'm like, you didn't go for the obvious answer. Like, do I think Issa deserved the orb? Of course, but like, what was her purpose of wanting the rainbow orb to begin with? Because her questions are so vague, right? If she had a specific desire that couldn't be resolved by the specific dokebi orbs, I would understand why she wanted the rainbow orb. But so far, Issa was able to find her every orb, so there was actually no tension on why she specifically wanted the orb. Yeah. Yep. By the way, when I picked this question, this was meant to be lighthearted because I knew I had thoughts about this. I wanted to mix in some lighthearted questions. No, it's fine. It's not her fault. It's the writer who did not fully flesh her out. Saren is a child who is doing her best, and I will never stop cheering for her. I just feel like she deserved better. That is my thoughts. I feel like she deserved better. Because let me just say, like, the whole thing about her wishes as well was that Duroff specifically mentioned that she was moving exactly as he intended, and if she had moved off course, he would have, hypnotized her. But at the same time, like, that was what made me feel like, Saren, you never once thought... Author, are you sure? I don't know. I have my gripes. Anyways, let me move on from now. We can come back to this if we encounter another question. But which dish would you rather try and why? Garlic bread made from human memories of being a baby and a drink made from human greed. Now, technically, there is a right answer here because we saw what the drink made from human greed did to Saren. But I feel like there'd be people who are still curious what it tastes like because apparently it was really refreshing. I don't recommend it. Personally, for me, the garlic bread being really soft and like the best taste ever was really tempting. But I also feel like that's dangerous. When things taste too good, that's a little dangerous. For me, the fact that one is garlic bread and one is a drink also makes it more of an easy choice because garlic bread. I did specifically choose these two because of like how they impacted the story. Because I thought it was very interesting how the garlic bread actually gave Saren... How do I say this? It gave her energy, It like somehow her having those human memories, like eating the garlic bread made from human memories of being a baby, encouraged her to want to try. I think it was the scene where she was in the dungeon and she ate the garlic bread and it was so tasty. And it actually, I think it's like good food gives you, good food is, I guess it's like not just gives you energy, like not literal energy, but it's just like, maybe it is literal energy. I'm not sure. I had a point to this. I had a thought about this, but I forgot to write it down. When you have a thought, remember to write things down because you cannot trust your own memory to bring out the thoughts. you'd still want to try the drink made from human greed. Your reasoning is that you know human greed can be so strong. Maybe it'll be very interesting and strong flavor or something. See, I knew there'd be someone who wanted to try it. Fair enough. Fair enough. I do not recommend you having it in a casino, but I understand. Also, I think it's interesting that like Bormo and Bordeaux. Excuse me. Bormo and Bordeaux make food from, human emotions but I did not think that Grom, whose whole thing is that he takes people's sleep, and he had a specially made recipe of a drink from human greed. I feel like he has a chef, but I feel like, how to explain this? Taking human greed from people and then giving it to people in your casino is very insidious. Can you imagine that? Like, you take it from other people so that they have a better life because, they have less of that greed. But then you give it to the people who would be at most danger of that greed, which is being in a little casino. That's crazy. That is big-brained. He won all those, like, nonsensical small awards. I think he should have won most insidious. Can you imagine that? Like, originally at Dokebi, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take human greed so that they live longer and we can have more humans stay around longer. And then this one guy is like, you know what? I can really use that in my casino 1 day a year. Or I don't know, maybe it doesn't affect dokebis the same way it affects humans and it's just magnified. Would drinking it make you more greedy? Then you'd think twice before trying it. I recommend you reread that part where Saren, I'll give you the page number, where Saren drinks it. Let's see. The casino. Okay, 154. On 154 is when Saren drinks it, and, you can see what happens. It's interesting. I don't know if it's specifically the drink or if it's also Isa and Durof's interference. It's kind of a toss-up. That's why I said, like, yeah, no problem. That's why I said that it won't necessarily affect you, but I don't recommend it in a casino or when you're, online shopping. Or when you're, in a place like a jewelry store. Next question. Did you guess the culprit? Were you satisfied with the reveal? Personally, I didn't know if it would be Durof. I just had bad vibes from him. But I did think that the build-up to him being the villain was really well done. I really liked it that Saren herself slowly pieced everything together. It did not feel too slow and it did not feel too fast. The fact that she looked at Durof and she realized all those hints came together at once because she had actually gotten a peek of his arm and realized he was missing a cufflink. I think that was really well done. I think it was great that she was active in it and it wasn't just her trusting him and then him monologuing. He's like, haha, you trusted me, but it was actually me all along. I really liked that. That's why I said, like, I think Saren at the end was really great. Her moments where she was active, where she tried, where she was willing to take chances, that was really great. And surprisingly, it was after her encounter with Durof. As Durof said, he's a self-esteem taker. I think he did affect her a little, and he didn't mention it, but I do think it was interesting that by the end, he was so confident that he'd won that maybe he stopped taking her self-esteem. That would be an interesting thought. You failed at guessing it. You thought Durof would be the secret chief or something, and you thought Berna was evil, but it was the other way around. Yeah. I think that the way especially when they had the spider actively attack Saren, it really gave me a moment where I was like, could it be Berna? But then I was like, no. With this feeling, it'd be too obvious. I do wonder why Berna's spider attacked Saren. Was it just trying to reclaim the orb so that they couldn't have all the different colors? I feel like that's very sus. Like, why did it have to actually attack her? Maybe it, like, I think it knew, it was always knowing that, it always knew that Durov had specifically signaled out Saren. But I think it was odd to have the spider actually attack her and not just take it when she was asleep. Like, my biggest, no, sorry, I keep saying my biggest gripe. My gripe with the spider is that Saren often fell asleep and she completely unaware. The spider could have slowly taken her orbs and nothing would have happened. Like, it would have derailed the whole plot, because if it had just slowly taken the orbs as she collected more, I don't think Saren would have consciously known that the orbs were disappearing. Because number one, they were in the dokebi pouch, so she doesn't know how many there are. The weight doesn't change, so she doesn't consciously know how many there are. Number two, Saren did not check every time to make sure she had all the orbs. That didn't occur to her. So if the spider had just taken it while she was asleep, they wouldn't have had to, do the big fight in the reveal. And I think Saren still would have ended up at the casino. She still would have, had to be rescued by Durov, but then Durov would have been actively sabotaged because she didn't hold all the orbs with her. Maybe it was like, because it was really following them around. That was my only thing about the spider. And it was a shadow spider. Like, in the dark, it should have been unstoppable. But yeah. Admittedly, I will say that, you guys can see why it's 3 stars for me. 2.5 to 3. Yeah. This is also why it's like, I love reading stories to see the possibilities, but I definitely could not be one of these protagonists because I would not do half of these things. Definitely wouldn't do half of these things. But that's why it's fun to read about it, because now I can explore these things in a safe place called fiction. But yeah, what did you guys think? Were you satisfied with the reveal? Because for me, I did like the way that Saren was active in, understanding that he was the villain. I think that was really well done. I also think it was interesting how she didn't really have feelings of betrayal, if that makes sense. Like, I think she was more worried about Isa. I'm gonna go back and double check that. Yeah, she didn't really have much betrayal. I was pretty surprised, but I think she also just... she was in too much shock. It wasn't a big thing. Alright, I'm gonna move on. Feel free to keep sending the messages. I'm just gonna move on. At the end of the novel, Saren realizes her current life is the best life for her. What aspects of your life do you think make it the best one for you? Now, I do think we all have those moments where it's like, oh, if only our life could be like this, or only if our life could be like that. But I do hope that, at least by reading the story, we all can have a moment where we're like, yeah, our life is actually pretty good after all. I'm really lucky to have this. An interesting reveal for you was that the orbs were really the lives of the human guests, and Durov was someone you ended up hating. That's also fair. That's the twist. Because you said that you really liked him at first, so for him to completely smash his perception, he did a good job as a villain, But yeah, I do agree that the orbs being the lives of human guests, I think when you hear that you can get your ideal life, you kind of thought that you could imagine the life you wanted and you could get that, right? That was the whole magic of the place. But to know that you were only taking over the life of someone else, what's a really interesting question is what happens to the life that you take? Because they do specifically say in the dokebi rules that only lives that are abandoned or returned will go back to the original owner. So what happened to the author, the original person who lived the author life? Wait, hold on. So the author who wrote the Rainfall Market, the guide, he took someone else's life to become an author, right? What happened to the original author? They don't mention that, because what if you don't find the life you want, but someone else wants your life? Because Because the author ended up coming back. Is he here to return his author life, or, you know? Yeah, that's what made it a little complicated for me. I do see what they were trying to do because it makes sense that dokebi are not all magical creatures. They're not God. If you guys are not familiar, dokebi in folklore are kind of like mischievous supernatural beings. They do have amazing abilities, but they're not, you know, they're not like that powerful. They still have restrictions on their powers. So that's why it was interesting. I had many questions. I had many questions after I finished reading this. It's also something I wanted to bring up later because one of my questions, let me see, how many questions do I have left? If it doesn't come up, if I don't have a question specifically referring to it, I will give you my thoughts on the rainbow orb. But yeah, let me first start off with, for me, what I think I'm really lucky with my life is that I have really good people in my life. I think that it's because of the people in my life that I can have the life that I have, in that if I reach out to them, if I needed something, not just needed something, but like being able to talk to them, having people who care about me as a person, I feel really lucky for that. I think that's what makes my life the best one for me. I could imagine a lot of different things, but I would never want a life without the people who are currently in my life not being there with me, you know? A lot of things can sometimes be difficult, and a lot of things can be, even for me, like I'm not going to say too much about it, but I have a lot of anxiety, and I'm really lucky to have people who, of course, sometimes it's tough, but like they listen and they don't dismiss me for my anxiety, and they like help me either take action so that I don't feel as anxious, and that means a lot to me. I'm really lucky. Yeah, sorry, I try not to go too much into it. I don't want to be vague. Yeah, I feel really lucky. I do also hope you guys have people in your lives who make you feel valued and cared for. But if not, know that there is a reader here who is always cheering you guys on and is always hoping that you guys are doing well, living well, and taking care of yourselves. Yeah, I do think that the author did a really good job of that because, like, I think so often we sometimes get wrapped up in our own thoughts, which is not always easy. But sometimes taking a step back and seeing it from another perspective and being like, oh, actually, I had this. Because, like, for example, Saren, I understand she's young. For her to see that her mother really cared and actually wanted to be there for her, I think that was really important for her to change how she viewed her mom, because her mom is just someone she sees as like struggling, you know, after the accident. So I think that was a really great moment. I do think her younger sister could have been strengthened, but that's just me. My big gripe. Alright. You know, I think something I would really wish to have as like, this is kind of silly, but I feel like having like a, you know, when you're typing a message, it'd be interesting to have that pop up. Like when a chat is typing. I feel like if you had a really big chat, that might be a little difficult to manage, but I feel like having like the ... someone is typing is helpful. It is helpful. For you, despite always wanting more things or things to be easier, you're grateful you joined because now you're the healthiest and you're more disciplined. Well, I'm glad that you found comfort and in the discipline and in the routine, and I hope you are staying safe. It would be helpful, yeah. I feel bad because I know you guys are typing. I'm trying to grasp that timing of not having too many TED moments or quiet moments as a streamer, which is why like having the ... really helpful. But yeah, please stay safe. All right, next question. What do you think happened to the people that had their lives combined into and used as the rainbow orb? This is my question. This is the specific question I wanted to ask because, like I mentioned, in the 5 Dokebi rules, they only specifically said that lives that were abandoned or returned would go back to their original owners. So what happened to the 7 people, green, purple, yellow, blue, red, orange, and indigo, because I don't know their names, after Isa used the orb? It never specifically mentions. Because I don't think, let's say for example, if the author of the Rainfall Market, the guide, they said that it got a new life as an author. Does that mean there are now 2 authors? Or is there an author and a missing person? Because the thing is, we never really find out what happens. And at some point, I feel like they could have mentioned, like, for example, because Saren had this experience, now she unconventionally has, like, some people who relate to her because of their unique experiences. Maybe they're not friends because they didn't meet each other, but it was kind of like, oh, they pass each other's streets and they nod or they wave. I feel like that would have been more heartwarming because now I don't know what happened to the people. Like, you could have, how do I say this? You could have used magic and been like, oh yeah, these people are still living their lives. Isa used it, but because it became a rainbow orb, it didn't take enough of their lives, so, you know. But then now I'm kind of like, what happened? Are they still here? Are they okay? Why? You know, like, I don't really have an answer. I feel like if I could, I would ask the author. Like to think that they're okay and that they listened on the radio at the end, hopefully. Yeah, I hope so as well. That's what I mean. Like, if they at least showed them in passing, maybe everyone's like listening while the radio is narrating, that would have been heartwarming to know that, you know, they all wanted to go for better, but at the end of the day, they're okay with what they have now. That also would have been heartwarming. But this was the biggest question I had in mind when I finished the book. We just never hear about them again. Alright, next one. This is the last one from the book. Excuse me, I keep sneezing today. The rainy season is a real weather phenomenon in South Korea. What made that setting perfect for the book? Oh, maybe a group visit to the Rainbow Market. Love that they renewed it. Also great. I agree. Like, they could have done so many ways, especially because the market people asked Saren to return. Like I said, that's a great idea. I just wish we had gotten some closure. That's why, for me, the ending was a little weak. It didn't round off the story long enough, or well enough. So there were lots of plot holes. Lots of empty gaps. I think we can call the story warming, but maybe not heartwarming for me, specifically. But yeah, let's talk about the rainy weather. I think rain symbolizes a lot of things. I did try to look at what the rainy weather means in South Korea, and from what I see is it's both a boon and it's like good and bad. I was going to say boon and boon, but I think that's the same thing. It's good and bad. On one hand, everyone knows rain is good. Rain is nice. But on the other hand, in Korea, it's also seen as... I didn't write it down. See, this is why I said you have to write down your thoughts. I think it's... Actually, let me not make any conjectures because I don't remember exactly. It does have a significance. But for me, as someone, a reader who loves the rain, what made the setting perfect for the book is because it's almost like... The rain is sort of Saren's situation. I know I say this a lot, but for a whole week of nonstop rain, and then for her to end with the rainbow quote-unquote market, I think that's a really strong symbolism of her being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Literally. Because I think even specifically, she avoids going through the tunnel because just how do I say this? At the end of the book, when she had the choice to go back for Isa or go with everyone else, and it was literally a light at the end of the tunnel. Instead of choosing to just focus on herself as she has so far, through her journey at the Rainfall Market, she has finally learned to like be considerate and consider others. So she goes back for Isa. And I think that's a great symbolism of why she was able to break through the rain and then find her rainbow, if that makes sense. Because that was her growth. Instead of just seeing things from her perspective, she's able to consider other people and value other people's perspectives. Because I don't think she was inconsiderate before. She clearly isn't. She's very polite. But I do think it changed for her to not just see herself. I really wish I had my notes on what what the rain means in South Korea, because rain can actually mean so many different things in different cultures. This is also why I have like one notebook for all my book club notes so that I can go through one, because if I write them on different pieces of paper, I tend to lose them. I will also say that when we think about cozy settings, we tend to think about rain, so it really wasn't a bad choice. I'm just sneezy today. You hated when Saren said that hurtful things to Aisha. That's why others. Yeah, I think she said. I'll find it. Hold on. We should get the exact quote. She said, "Ow, Aisha, what is wrong with you? No wonder you're last owner." So she didn't actually say anything. She implied it. But like I said, because Asian languages are so contextual, it might have been really scathing in the way that she phrased it. It was really upsetting. But like I said, at that point, you could see after she had the drink how her emotions got continuously riled up, especially her random, fixation on the rainbow orb. That was very much threw off. You just wanted to hug Aisha. It's okay. Aisha won in the end. He got the rainbow orb, and now Saren will take care of him for the rest of her life. Rest of Aisha's life. So don't worry, Aisha got redeemed, and sometimes when we care about people, we can cause either misunderstandings or say things that we don't mean to, or things that we know we shouldn't have, but we said in the heat of the moment. But what's important is being able to apologize and actually take actions not to say it again. Like you can see how Saren went back for Aisha. Like I said, she had a chance to leave and she went back for him, and she made sure to first apologize for him. So I can see she really meant it, and that I think it was very fair that Aisha forgave them. For the rain, you also love rain. Welcome, you're in the right place. It's calming and reminds you of home, but in this book, it made you think that it's sad and the market was for sad people. That's also true. I also think rain is fairly calming. For me, it's weather I really enjoy. Not outside. I like being inside and seeing the rain. As you can see in the background, look at how cozy this is, even though the rain is falling pretty, like it's a lot of rain. But I do also think the melancholy, I can never pronounce the word right. Melanch, melancholy. Is it Choly or Coly? I can't remember how to spell it. But it gives you that kind of vibe, the kind of sad vibe. It's not always sad, but I do agree that for a group of people who are unhappy with their life and hoping for something better, the rain was a nice metaphor. Oh, it is Choly. Thank you. I still don't know how to pronounce it. But when you have that kind of vibe, sometimes rain really adds to it, because a lot of people also hide in the rain. If you think about rain, you think about people holding umbrellas, wearing rain jackets, hats, and things like that. I think it's also another, how do I say this? Like, you want to hide. So I guess that was it. But there was a term for it. It's a cover. The rain is often a cover for people. And that's why I think in this case, where people could only enter the market on the first rainy day, it kind of made sense because they were taking refuge, from the rain, from their sadness, from the things that they didn't want to show. The rain was covering it for them. That was it. It's a refuge and a cover. So I do agree that the rain was really great. Yeah. You would think that with a simple word like cover, I would have thought of it sooner, but that's just how sometimes it is. Symbolism. Next question, and we are reaching the end here. This book I knew was going to be a little short because I did not dive into it as deeply as I did with Dinner at the Night Library. This book was pretty straightforward. There are a couple things I looked up, and I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. Is there anything I haven't mentioned that you want to talk about? Now, while you guys are typing, I'll let you type, don't worry. I'll mention something. If any of you were curious, I could not find the song that they used in the book. I don't know if that's a real song or if it's a Korean specific song, so looking up the English lyrics didn't help. But there was another book, and it was the book that Yeren's friend specifically mentioned to her that it was a really popular book called The Wish Granting Island. Now, if any of you are curious, that is a real book. The author was doing literal self-promo in this book because that is his other book that he published. Let me tell you a little bit about that book. It does make sense in context. You can tell that the author has a specific story he likes, but it's basically self-promo. So it is an island where any wish can be granted. 4 young people, each with different misfortunes, set off for this mysterious island. You have Paul, who is a blind boy, Hal, an old man who lost a leg, Jacob, a prosecutor who lost an arm, and Pat, a mysterious boy who claims to come from the sky. I actually had to look up I had to translate this title in Korean to find it because I kind of went on a goose chase. This is only available in Korean, The Wish Granting Island. I did translate the synopsis. That's why they said 4 young people, but we have young and old people as the characters. Also, I'm confused why Pat, who has different misfortunes, he claims to come from the sky. Apparently falling from the sky itself being a misfortune, I get it. Maybe he has a bunch of broken bones. But the fact that he claims to come from the sky, I don't really know what kind of misfortune that is. That might be a translation thing. I translated it with different translators. I still couldn't figure out. But anyways, this group of people first meet at Castle Wandering and together travel through the path of competition, mountains of loneliness, and the forest of anxiety as they explore the meaning of life and rekindle forgotten hope. So as you can see, this is in fact kind of relevant. On one hand, it is kind of implying that Yeren potentially could go on her own journey as she rekindles forgotten hope that she, better for her. But on the other hand, we can also tell that the author really likes these kind of stories where people are drawn in by the possibility of something better. And only through striving for it themselves do they potentially see, they actively choose to live better in their current life. That's how I'm going to describe it. In that case, his story, the co-author story, The Pastry Chef of Haladong, was really different because it was just about a young girl who accepts her fate. I mean, technically she gets a different perspective, but I don't know. Sorry, I'm still really salty about that because I was so excited for the book. I was so disappointed. So disappointed. They mentioned the song at the start and the end with the radio station. You don't think it's a real song, but the idea of the song helps you think that if this was a Studio Ghibli animation. Oh, that's true. Using that music to signify the lyrics at the beginning and the end definitely gave it opening and ending credit vibes. They could make it a real song. It'd be nice to hear at the start and end of the movie. I need to talk about my GOAT, the best of all best, Tamon B-side, which is a shoujo anime where the author was able to take the songs she wrote in the manga and turn them into real songs, and they are amazing. I wish more companies gave the authors the freedom to turn their visions into reality like that, because I can't imagine how it must feel for her, but the songs were so good. I actually wanted to buy the CD. They were just sold out when I wanted to buy it. The songs are so good. So 10 out of 10, I agree. It'd be great if he could actually turn the song into an actual song, because it would have been really great. But personally, I do think that if they turn this into a story, they would have to change certain things about this. They just would, for the marketability of it. Even though this is an international bestseller, because if they are going to take ORV, Omniscient Reader Viewpoint, an amazing story, and change so many things about it, they're going to have to change so many. I have my gripes. ORV is great. I recommend the novel. The manhwa looks great and is pretty good, but it does change some core things because of marketability. But the original light novel is so good. But yeah, is there anything else that I haven't mentioned that you guys want to talk about? Those are pretty much all my thoughts on the story. Like I said, I did know that this was going to be pretty straightforward. I did have, aside from a couple questions, I thought it was pretty wrapped up. Oh. Oh, I forgot one thing. I forgot to send out my gifted. Hold on. Cancel. I was going to do gifted memberships. I'm going to send out the gifted memberships. I know we're at the end of the stream. I just want to make sure to do it. I keep forgetting to do it. I forgot to do it for July. Felt really bad. Maybe I'll do this earlier next time. Or no. Nope, I'll send them out. I'm sending out gifted memberships. Thank you to all my current members. Welcome to all the new members. I'm going to send out the other 5 in case I forget. Told myself I would do it for book club. That's what I wanted to do at the beginning. I wish they were more descriptive with the dokebi, honestly, because you know them. You know they have different colors of skin, but you imagine that they might have regular human colors. Oh, thank you, Nest, for the 5 gifted. Oh, thank you. You really didn't have to. I just realized last month that I didn't send any out. Wanted to make sure I did it, especially during book club. But thank you so much for the 5 gifted, and welcome in to all the members. I do also agree that I wish they had been more descriptive with dokebi, because dokebi are so interesting in that they all have unique appearances, if that makes sense. If you've seen them throughout many depictions, whether it be culturally or in manhwa manga, they all have such different, unique appearances. I felt like it would have lent more to the whimsy of the world if he had described them. Clearly, he had a vision for them, because as you can see, they had character portraits. There are actually characters I didn't show, like Berna and Toria, because they didn't have specific abilities. I did consider adding them, but I didn't see where to add them. So they had a vision, and it's very interesting to see like how different each character looks from another. So Mata looked like a regular boy, and then you had Berna, who had a very long nose, kind of like a goblin. And then you had Daroff, who comically looks very, very odd. Like his mouth is literally too big for his face. So that's why I agree that I wish that they had described more of them. For example, we have Bordeaux and Bormo. They do have Bordeaux's picture, but they don't have Bormo's picture. And I thought it would have been interesting because they're supposed to be twins, but they're said to be so different from each other. So I do agree. That's one thing that was a little kind of prevented the immersion into the story. 10 out of 10 would agree. But I do see, because this was, how do I say this? Let me make sure I'm getting my information correct. I gotta reread the acknowledgement for something. Okay, so this book was crowdfunded, by the way. This and several of his other books were actually crowdfunded by, I guess, like a Kickstarter where it was community backed, which is very cool. And it's why I understand why it did so well when it first came out, because it already had people who were invested in the story. And they did mention that the specific book they wrote in between their job. I do think it's a good story. What I was going to mention specifically why I reread the acknowledgments was whether this book was edited or not. Whether, for example, because I said he was crowdfunded, he actually wasn't signed with an agent or a publisher. But I did specifically mention that when this came out, before it was fully published, he did get international versions of it by his agent, because that was after all the crowdfunding. So technically his book would have been published regardless, but he didn't sign with the specific, his agent and the publishing house, until afterwards, which is why I was kind of like, oh, is this fully edited by the editor, or if it was more like they saw his repertoire and then printed it after. So I think this book was edited. And I won't say anything. Like I said, it's very well-rounded. It's just a little plot holes here and there, and some aspects where we felt clearly as a community could have been strengthened if they had done a couple of things differently. Yeah. One of the questions of the discussion actually was, did you read the acknowledgments and did it affect the way you viewed the story? I think it's interesting they chose that as one of the discussion questions, because they specifically asked, did they change your view about the book or did they reinforce the book's message? On one hand, I understand. I just think it's kind of silly that you are asking people to react to something like that, if that makes sense. Like, you included the acknowledgement because you wanted to share your situation, but then by putting it as a discussion question, you actively, are bringing attention to that. Aisha is the best dog, Kitty. His derpiness made you want to keep reading. I agree. He was a great sidekick. Oftentimes when you hear about cat sidekicks, they're kind of nonchalant and aloof, and it's not bad. Like, there's always room for cats. But I do think that Aisha being as active and as silly as he was, and, being an absolute bottomless pit, was so charming, and he was such a great sidekick. I think he really played a huge role in brightening Saren's mood and actively making her less fearful about the situation, because Aisha was so powerful but he was so silly, if that makes sense. Like, the contrast really kind of helped her relax and open up to him as well. Now, you guys are curious, the other questions I didn't use from the discussion book were the fact that this book is based in South Korea. Are there any cultural references that have similarities in your culture? For example, are there dokebi or goblins in your culture? How are they portrayed? I didn't actually go into this because I did not want to do... I didn't have time to do research, but I thought it would have been an interesting question to dive into, if you guys in your culture have any folklore that have things like that. So that's something to think about. What else? They said, Aisha, the magical cat, plays a big role in helping Saren find her happiness. Do you have a pet in your life? In what ways do they bring you happiness? And I didn't include that one because I was rhetorical. Pets always bring happiness to our lives. Well, they should. And if you don't feel that way, then I don't have anything to say to you. sorry, I'm trying to be lighthearted about it, but it was genuinely, there were so many questions that as I already had 16 here, so that's why I was kind of like, I had to pick and choose. I did pick all the rest of them though, because there's 8, and I think I picked 6. I think I just picked like the complicated ones. My bad. Maybe I should have included the pet question so you guys could just tell me about your pets. Now, if that's it, we'll go into you love the food eating contest, so perfect for Aisha. I agree. It was such a great moment because number 1, Aisha loves food. Number 2, Aisha can get really big. I feel like even if she did not make Aisha into a ginormous cat, he would have won the eating contest hands down. Aisha loves food. He is very good at eating. It is his special skill. It is his party trick. But it was such a great moment where she like baffled the dokebi, and I think that's also what leads them to having Saren be so memorable to them, is that she was so unconventional, you know? Like I said, dokebi are very long-lived, so for them they've probably seen a lot. So for them to remember Saren and come to her aid like that, she really must have made an impression on them, and we can tell based on her interactions. She really did leave an impression, except for Emma. She really didn't do much with Emma, and that was because that was the beginning of her journey, so I was surprised to see Emma come through, but I'm glad she did. I also feel like the tagline here, discover a magical place of endless possibilities. The possibilities are limited by the people who ended up in the Rainfall Market, because you can only get the lives of people who were in the market. So for me, this is clickbait. A little bit clickbait, because unless Duroff somehow manages to get every possibility, which is very difficult, you are limited by whoever enters the market. Because not everyone can get the rainbow orb. Only Isa can get the rainbow orb. Yep. Okay, very last question for today. Was there a moment in tonight's discussion that surprised you? Personally, I never considered Saren's relationship with her mom. Admittedly, her mom played an important role to me, but I was more focused on her sister, clearly, because I thought that it wasn't quite as strong, but I really enjoyed you, like, I really appreciate you bringing up the point that if Saren's sister had a stronger bond with her mom, that definitely would have been a small but subtle way to reinforce some of her characteristics. So I appreciate that. This is why I love book club. I also feel like I think that was it. Not that was it that surprised me, but like distinctively that like surprised me. It gave me like a eureka moment, you know? I appreciate that. You can tell I love reading comprehension. For you made you wonder about the other human guests. Like, what really did happen to them after? Now you want more closure. I specifically did not ask if you guys were... There was one question I asked last time, and is if you guys liked the ending or if you wanted to see a sequel. I feel like if I had asked that question, on one hand, it would have... how do I say this? I didn't have time, for one thing. But the main reason I didn't ask it is because I didn't really have an answer for myself. I feel like as we were discussing it, I feel like now if I were to answer, like, if we needed a sequel, I feel like we do now. Maybe the sequel... Hold on. Is Saren, because now she's different. She's changed. She's accepted, and she's going to move towards the future she wants. Maybe she goes back to the Rainbow Market and she finds out that the lives of the people who used Isa used for the Rainbow Orb are now so different. And she's going to go on a journey to re-meet them one by one to help them out of guilt knowing that Isa benefited. The only thing is she will not give up Isa, so she has to help them find a different life in a different way. I feel like that could have been a sequel, but at the same time, it doesn't really reinforce the story, if that makes sense. Like, the core of the story is finding the silver lining in your own circumstances, but also like not only that, but realizing that the life you have now is the best life for you, even if not in all ways, but in some ways, you know? And kind of holding on to those ways allows you to move forward. I feel like if there was a sequel, that would be really difficult on Saren. Yeah, it sounds interesting, right? But I don't know what the core of the story would be. Like, would the core of the story be that now that Saren values and is more considerate of other people, that she's able to help these people? But then that would put too much responsibility on her, if you know what I mean, because she is just a young high schooler. It's not her responsibility. And I think that's also something that they kind of reinforce because she's helped by the community. Yes, she took the steps herself to stand up to Duroth, but it is because she saw that everyone come forward and willing to put themselves in danger to help her that kind of gives her that sense that maybe I'm not alone after all. Maybe it could happen with another character. Oh, you're right. Maybe it could happen with Yeren. Maybe by helping others that have encountered her sister, Yeren herself finds closure and is emboldened at the end of the story to go back home to her family. I don't know. That's also possible because they did hint at Yeren. Unfortunately, she went off screen very soon, but it could be a possibility. Maybe Yeren's own journey is by encountering the people and finding and meeting her sister, she's able to maybe she learns the same lesson. I'm actually not sure. Like I said, I personally will admit as someone who does write, I'm very, very particular, but I do prefer reading because I like reading other people's stories. Trying to craft a story right here. Tough, tough. The ideas are interesting, but what is the driving force? It's not easy. Writing is not easy. That's why I'm saying, like, I'm not bashing the author or anything when I say, like, I want to change this or I'm thinking of this. It's just, as a reader and someone who did enjoy the story, I feel like making some changes in my mind would help, but I still enjoyed the story and I appreciate it. Lots of possibilities, but it definitely needs some kind of conflict. Yeah, maybe it's tough for Yeren. Maybe it's tough for Yeren to wonder why her sister was so different with these people than she is with her. Don't know. Maybe her friend, I don't want to say it. Her friend betraying her would be the most cliche thing ever. Yeah, it really would. I don't like it. I don't like the suffer Olympics where whoever suffers more deserves the happy ending. That's why I tend not to read a lot of the romance stories. They are just there's one about a woman whose best friend dies and her best friend made her promise that she would take care of her kids because she knew someone was targeting her, but the kids don't know. So to the kids, their favorite aunt suddenly seduced and married their dad out of nowhere, and I'm like, just tell the kids. Just tell the kids, and no one does. No one does. And now the kids and everyone are suffering. Or the other story where for some reason their female lead falls in love with the person who only married her to torment her because he's taking revenge on something she didn't do, but was something that her dad did. And then when he realized that he actually fell in love with her and she was living well, he suddenly wanted her back. And she somehow, for some reason, ended up with him again after he tortured her. Let's take stories where the female lead and male lead definitely shouldn't have ended up together for 1,000, please. Yeah, I'm tired of the Suffer Olympics. It's why I sometimes like to read. I really enjoy my cozy reading. This one had a little bit of the Suffer Olympics, not too much, but definitely made me think of it. Anyways, sorry. I'm getting off topic here. As soon as I start thinking of those, I think of all the stories. I like conflict in the sense like Raeliana, where she had a driving force, where there were actual dangers, where she had actual motivation. I don't like suffering for the sake of suffering. Yeah. Anyways, I think this is a good place to stop. Thank you so much for joining book club, whether you are chatting, lurking, watching the VOD. Thank you again for everyone participating, and I hope you guys enjoyed the story. I will soon put up the poll for next book club. I think after doing a couple of these solo reads, I want to go back to some books I did in old book club. Of course, I will host them in ways that are more similar to this. I will not be using too much of the visuals. I realize now that was really risky. But I will still use the manga and manhwa to showcase you some of the characters so we can discuss them. If you guys are curious, the two series I've done book clubs on in the past are Lout of Accounts Family and In the Land of Leodale. Both are great stories, so I would love to get back to actually maybe discussing them in this format. And if you guys haven't read them, I do recommend them. 100%. If you like fantasy, if you like great characters, if you want to see interesting journeys, 100% would recommend. You like the visuals, though, love the effort. I also really like the visuals, but I realized what I ended up doing was just retelling the story. And also, I don't want the publishers to potentially think I'm taking their work. Knocked on wood so I don't speak it into existence. But it's just, as someone who wants to keep my channel, I am being cautious. But also, I don't want to focus on just retelling the story. I really enjoy like discussing with you guys these moments. So that's what I want to kind of focus on. So yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me. Whether you are a viewer, a member, or watching the VOD, I do appreciate you all. I'm Ria, a reader who loves the rain, and I stream 4 times a week. This week will be a little different. I will be having some videos in between the days I don't stream, which are Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Because it is wholesome game celebrations. We are going to try a bunch of cozy games and demos. And if you guys are interested in Pokemon, I say Digimon, Otome, and cozy games, you should subscribe. We will be playing Sunday, Monday, and Friday we'll be playing some cozy games. But otherwise, Sundays are for Tomodachi Life. Wednesdays are always for Mystria. And if any of that interests you, definitely check out the rest of my channel and the videos and subscribe, of course. Trying to reach 1,000 subs by the end of the year. I did promise a karaoke if I do... if I reach 1,000 subs, but also my goal is to reach 1,000 subs. So if you guys would subscribe, I'd appreciate that. What else? I think I had something else I was gonna mention. I'm so glad I did all my announcements ahead of time. But I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to drink water, stretch, rest well, and take care of yourselves. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are, and whatever you do, know that I am always hoping you are doing well and cheering you on. I'm Ria, a reader who loves the rain, and I hope I see you in another stream. Until next time!